When we want to lose weight, we immediately think of going to the gym, doing some more cardio, working out more. When we get sick or when we feel sick, we automatically think about everything, including the worst case scenarios and any form of tablets out there to recover from the symptoms. We always go for the quick fix promises. But in either cases, we rarely, if at all, think about nutrition as the main healing component. From personal experiences that I've lived and witnessed closely around me, including chronic diseases such as diabetes, I've been learning about the incredible power nutrition has to transform our health and prevent ailments, especially stomach issues. My diet is predominantly plant-based, so not fully. I usually call it a hybrid between vegetarian and vegan diet with as less processed foods and dairy as possible. It kind of happened organically for me. Long story short, I was going to that meditation retreat and they had all of these instructions about what to not eat. So everything that can get you addicted. So obviously drugs, no surprise, alcohol, cigarettes, and also meat, red meat, white meat. The goal of these instructions were to have your body as light and receptive to the meditation process as possible. And that made me wonder, what would we take that out to live a grandiose experience of being in full meditation, being fully aligned with ourselves, but not in our everyday life? That was at a time in my life when I completely stopped red meat. So I was only eating white meat, but processed white meat, like, the one that is in packages. And after that retreat, like following these instructions, I felt very good. I felt very good. I'm kind of the type of person to cut something out right away and not go back. So I did that with alcohol. I think it was like 2 months before that retreat. So it was just like aligning perfectly with that new kind of mindset that I was in. So I did that meditation retreat, new diet because of the instructions, and I decided to try to keep on going with them for an extra month to see how it went. So it went wonderfully. I didn't feel any type of craving regarding meat, maybe because I already lowered my consumption of meat by taking out red meat. I don't know, maybe. I was good. I was feeling great. So then I pushed to 2 months and I just ended up sticking with it since it really reframed my approach to food positively, made my eczema completely disappear. And if you had eczema in the past or you still have it, you know how annoying that is. So yeah, that was great. That was a great experiment. And I can't believe that almost 5 years down the line, I'm still sticking to it. I think I found my happy medium with it. It will be way too long to talk about the ups and downs of my not so healthy relationship with food I had in the past. But let's just say that at some point in my life, actually a period full of internal and external changes, I shifted my mindset to being healthy and strong rather than thinner and fitting beauty standards that are not even in tune or aligned with my natural body shape and have never been for that matter. Plus, realizing and embracing that nature is already giving us everything we need at our disposal for our optimal health. I believe to sustainably carry out a healthy diet, it needs to be more than a diet, but habits turned into rooted mindfulness and enjoyment. And that's what I want to talk about because we forget that food is supposed to be nutritious. It's supposed to make us feel fully vitalized and also enjoying the process and being conscious in the way that we consume things. Not only the type of food, but also the quality and the amount. For this conversation, I invited the radiant Whitney Miner, a certified holistic nutritionist, yoga instructor, and the founder of Eat Plants and Prosper, a wellness blog with tons of tips on living a plant-based lifestyle for regular people like you and me. She's a fervent advocate for designing a holistic health lifestyle based on bringing consciousness in our daily meals, as well as bringing movement in our bodies to live the most fulfilling life we can. So let's get back in charge of our long-term health. Listen up to this jam. If you want to let go of past pain, transcend your traumas, expand your consciousness, and reclaim your power to finally be the main character of your own conscious reality, as well as learning about conscious living, you're at the right place. Welcome to Conscious Matters. It's a safe space where we chat about conscious matters, focus on self-empowerment, awareness, holistic wellness, and sustainability. Join me, Melissa DiVieri, for inspiring conversations with myself and some of the most beautiful souls out there. We expand expand on our experiences, and share what we've learned along our healing journey to live in peace, harmony, and mindfulness on a daily basis. Oh, and share with loved ones, and don't forget to take 5 little seconds to review this podcast by just leaving a few stars and kind words. That would really help with the algorithm, so we can spread the message to help more people live consciously. Get your mind, body, and soul ready for a ride in consciousness. Namaste, listeners. So I have a bunch of questions for you. And I really love what you do and how you connect the simplicity of the food that we eat to getting back to the basics of life, pretty much. And that is just the way that I approach life and the way that is my diet and how my lifestyle is, so on and so forth. So I love the resonance and how you approach it very simplistically. It makes it much more accessible to so many people. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much. That was so important to me because I just felt like it just seemed so complicated when I was trying to get into, eating healthier and eating, plant-based. And I, as a mom, I just wanted to make it as simple as possible for myself and for my kids. And so I found that a lot of people resonated with the just simplicity of just eat more plants, like just eat healthier, try to get as many plants into your diet as possible, and just to try to make it as easy as possible for people to relate and connect to eating this way and eating healthier, because it just seems to be, you get the recipes that are vegan or plant-based. It's like 77 ingredients. It's like, okay, yes, I love to cook, so that's fine for me. But guess what is not fine for a weeknight when you're like trying to get home and get the kids fed. And so you want some meals, something that's a little bit easier. And so just for me, keep it simple has been a big mantra. And I feel like people really do resonate with that.
Absolutely. And that's actually my first question, because we get so much misinformation about what to eat, what to not eat, not talking about the manipulation around food information led by marketing campaigns, pharmaceutical lobbyists, as well as the ineffective messages proclaimed by the fitness industry and the body image obsession, not mentioning body shaming practices. All of that kind of creating a constant guilt-ridden feeling in us over not being able to meet beauty standards, not being able to keep up with the diet, and not even knowing where to start in our dietary choices when it comes to our health. So could you please help demystifying all of that?
First of all, I just love this question so much because
thank you.
We don't realize, I think it's a fantastic question, because I don't think we realize the amount of outside pressure and influence that we have 100%. On what it is that we eat. Yes, on what it is that we eat. And so it is very important to try to remove yourself from all of that. So for me, it was a lot of unlearning the things that I had learned, and really in its most simple form, eat food that is good for your body. And that food is food that is as close as possible to what God created, right? So food that is from the earth is always going to be what's healthiest for you. So that means that we're trying to be as free of pesticides as possible, in the processed packaged food, eliminating that or reducing that as much as possible, and eating as many fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, seeds, legumes. Those type of things are always going to be what's healthiest for you. And so try to make your plate focused on those things as much as possible. You're off to a great start. Okay. And so I think we need to focus on those things, focus on trying to eat as many of those things as possible, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And that will get you to a much healthier self, right? So get rid of, kind of what we've been taught in the United States. It's like the food pyramid and all these things that we've been shown or taught that we're healthy and actually are not. Those foods that are from the earth are going to give you your healthiest body possible. If you consume those foods, I like to live by the 80-20 rule, right? Because no one can be perfect all of the time, right? Yeah. You will go to your mother's house and she has made your favorite cake, and you should eat that. You should eat it because you want it and it feels good to you when you have it, right? So that 20%, allow yourself, right? Those freedoms and liberties to kind of consume the things that you want. But if 80% of the time you can be focused on eating foods that are actually really healthy for you, foods that are from the earth, natural foods, you're going to be in good shape. That's going to give you your inside, right? Your body being healthy. And then also that's going to be what outside, right? Helps you with any type of weight loss or medical issues that you have as well. So I think that mindset, that focus on, okay, if just 80% of the time I can do well, I think is a much easier shift and a easier way to focus on and eliminate the distractions and the noise that we've been raised up to know and to hear about so much and so often with food.
I love that you mentioned the 80 and 20% rule because we often think that healthy diet means a lot of restrictions. And most of the time, we don't really eat because we need to eat and nourish ourselves, but we eat also for joy, for comfort, for so many other reasons. So the fact that we add this 20%, it can be enjoyable. You don't have to always follow these strict rules or put yourself in a box or having a label on you, and just enjoy eating, to enjoy food, to enjoy what was given to us by God, what was put on this earth also, and realizing that nature already has the answer for so many things. So I love that you specify that.
Melissa, I love what you just said about allowing yourself to enjoy food. And I think that does go missing, right? When we get so strict and so focused on, I'm on a diet, I'm plant-based, I'm vegan, I can't have this or can't have that. And it's like,
Yeah.
you should allow yourself to enjoy, right? Because this is what I also tell my clients, like you have to create that space for yourself, because you can't maintain a lifestyle of healthy eating if you don't allow some flexibility within that lifestyle. And so I love what you said about the pleasure of it. That was a switch for me in my mind when you said that, because it should be, yes, we're fueling our bodies, we're fueling our systems. We want to make sure we're putting in as much good things as possible, but also, right, we're human. We're here to enjoy the experience that we have here. And so let's also make food a part of that, and eat what we want to eat when we want to, right? Like when it makes sense for us to, right? Like I said, if you're going to a family reunion, enjoy your aunt's macaroni and cheese. You enjoy that, right?
Yeah.
Allow yourself that space. So I love that what you just said. That was a shift for me. I'm definitely going to share that with my clients, the pleasure of
I
it.
love that.
To bring that in.
Wonderful.
Yes. Yes.
And we all have some sort of knowledge about the effect of sugar. And you also mentioned processed food. So we know the effects of sugar and processed food, but feel free to tell us more. And you shared your personal story of getting sick very often and having found solace and remedy through a diet change. How a plant-based diet helps in preventing feeling sluggish and getting sick.
This was like such a shock to me, Melissa. Like I just wasn't expecting this pleasant side effect of eating so much healthier, which was that you do have so much more energy, right? You have so much more energy. So the need, like that dependence on coffee that a lot of people have because they're trying to wake up, a lot of that is because you're eating so many things that are not fueling your body and giving you the energy that you need to carry throughout the day. And so, that was such a pleasant byproduct for me, the amount of energy that I had. I'm like, I have more energy than I did even when I was like 16 years old, right? Because I just was feeling so good from eating, such good food and flushing my system of all of the processed foods that, I had been consuming. Processed foods really do damage on your body. It's not really food.
Yeah, it's processed. It's
It's
usually
processed.
like like the wizard trying to make
Yes.
like different concoction and trying
Yes.
to make us eat that. But it's so
Yes.
good though, but at the same time it's
And they
not
make
good
it
for
that
our
way.
health. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
make it that way. They make it that way. So these foods, these snack foods that we've been used to eating, so like Doritos and chips and all these things, they are literally chemically engineering these things so that they taste so good to your palate. They're sending off dopamine receptors in your brain. So the same receptors that go off when you're taking a shot of heroin, and I'm not exaggerating, this is
Yeah.
like true, you're
And
taking a
then we
shot of
become
heroin,
addicted. Yeah.
you becoming addicted to it. And so this is why, you continue to crave those Cheetos and those type of snacks, that just are not good for you. I call them UFOs, Melissa. It's unidentifiable food-like objects. It's not really food, right? Like it has no nutritional value whatsoever, right? Because real food doesn't have ingredients. Real food isn't. So an apple is just an apple. There's no other
100%
ingredients,
apple.
right?
Yes. Yes.
But if you look up a bag of Cheetos, it's like 45 ingredients in here, right? And so when you start to realize that, this really isn't food, there's a lot of chemicals in here, right? That has an impact on your body. Your body was never meant to digest those type of things, and definitely not on a daily basis, right? We're like, you're eating these things daily, right?
3 times a day.
Three
Yeah.
times a day, right? You're eating those things. And so your body is like, what is going on here, right? And so as opposed to an apple, your body knows very well what to do with it. And it's very nutrient dense, right? It has a lot of the things that your body needs to help it fuel and function properly. So yeah, the sugar and processed food crisis is killing us.
Can you actually share here a little bit of your story?
I would love to. So backstory on me is that as a kid, I was sick all the time, and that continued throughout my life. When I say sick, this cold, flu, sinus infection, stomach bugs. I started getting migraines when I was 7 years old, had no idea what it was. Finally, we figured it out after like a year or so of it happening. And I continued to be plagued with migraines at least once a month, sometimes more. They were debilitating. So it's not, I could not function. Light sensitivity, I had to, go in a dark room, close the door and sleep it off. There was no other remedy for it, so that continued to happen, just growing up. And as I got to be an adult, the people at the urgent care, like they knew me. Like when I came in, they're like, "Oh, hey, Whitney, like you're back. Is it another sinus infection?" And I'm like, "Yes, another sinus infection." I just thought that was normal for me, right? I used to joke that I had an immune system of a newborn baby, right? Like my immune system did not function well like a grown adult. Like it was literally like if someone had something, I was going to catch it. And so in 2018, I got the flu and a sinus infection back to back. And so it was like the real flu. I was sick. And so then I got the sinus infection right after that. It was like 5 weeks that I was sick in a row. And I was like, all right, come on. This is crazy. Like I can't miss a month and a half of life, right? Because I'm sick. I need to figure out what to do.
I like the perspective. It's actually missing out on life.
I'm in the bed. I'm bedridden. Like it's like you can't. I have children. I want to participate in their lives and not always be sick. And I want to participate in my own life, right? Yeah. I don't want to be sick all the time. So obviously the doctor's offices, the antibiotics that I was constantly on was not doing the trick. So I started researching what could make you well naturally, right? What was some natural remedies? Everything I read was plant-based diet. And I was like, okay, I had done, a Daniel fast before for years and years. I did it every year, felt really great on it. Daniel fast is basically a fast that a lot of people partake in the beginning of the year. You're eating very clean. So it was a very clean diet, no processed food, no fried food, no sugar, no alcohol, no caffeine, just fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, nuts, beans, seeds, legumes. So I remembered how good I felt, when I would be on that. And so I said, well, maybe I'll try this because it does work. So I'll try it for 21 days and then I'll see how I feel. And I would like to go a full 90 days because, I read 90 days to make a lifestyle change. I didn't get sick not one time. My mom was like, that's probably the first 90-day span and maybe your whole entire life that you have not gotten sick.
Incredible.
I was like, you're probably right. I didn't get sick. I wasn't in anybody's doctor's office. I didn't have any migraines. My migraines were gone. No migraines. I felt better. I was sleeping better. My skin was glowing. I lost weight. I had all this energy. So it was clear, like what I needed to do. It was like, okay, this is what you need to do because you're not getting sick anymore. And so it's like, do you want to choose eating bacon? Because bacon does taste good. Or are you going to, right? You're going to continue doing those things that were making you sick, or are you going to choose a path of wellness where you feel really good? So I made the decision, okay, I'm going to be plant-based. And then a few months later, God was like, okay, so also I didn't just do that for you. I didn't heal you with nutrition just for you. This is really what you're here to do. Like, this is your purpose, is to help people understand, especially people that look like you, understand the power of, the medicine that I put in the food. Right. And so that is how Eat Plant to Prosper got started.
I love that. And can you tell us what you were eating before, actually? Because sometimes we don't eat plant-based, but we kind of have a sort of healthy diet still, or at least a balanced one of diet or what kind of food were you eating before?
Definitely eating a lot of meat. I ate a lot of meat. I'm from the Midwest in the United States. And so, we just ate a lot of meat for every meal. You had like sausage or bacon for breakfast. For lunch, you're eating like maybe a turkey sandwich. And then for dinner, you're eating, could be like chicken breast. So there was always meat at every meal. A lot. Yeah, I was consuming a lot of dairy, also consuming, just a lot of junk food. I love pizza, love French fries, love, chips, snacks, any type of sweets, cakes, any packaged food. I was definitely eating it, right? I just love junk food. I was a junk food junkie. And I would like to say that, honestly, I had gained weight. The weight gain, a lot of it was from my pregnancies with my daughters, but I wasn't overweight. So I think that that's also a myth that people have, that if you're not overweight, that you're healthy, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. When you thin, it also means that you're healthy. I think in my life, the time that I've been the thinnest was the time I was like the sickest inside of me and I wasn't healthy at all, but my body was just like not holding on to anything. So I appeared healthy from
Right.
the societal standard, but I was depressed, I was anxious like no one else. I was going through a burnout. So usually your physical appearance doesn't necessarily equals healthy. When you're thin or when you're overweight doesn't mean that you're necessarily super unhealthy.
That is so true. I couldn't agree with you more. I was the same way. I stressed, depressed, anxiety, all of those things. And actually eating well and eating better helped me cure all of those things.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you said that and made that connection as well, because, I just wanted to, something just told me to just say that, right? Like, just because I wasn't necessarily overweight, I still was eating a very poor diet. There was not a lot of nutrition. I was eating here in America, we like the meat portion, like you can go to a restaurant here and lots of restaurants and get a 24-ounce steak, Melissa. And then you have a huge baked potato on the side. And then your portion of broccoli is like, it's like a fourth of a cup, and it's like, you need to reverse that. You
Yeah.
need to,
That's too much.
the vegetable should be half of your plate, right? So I was definitely had everything. I would say, oh yeah, I ate some vegetables a day, but it was a small, tiny side salad after I've eaten like a huge piece of meat. My diet was definitely not. It was what we call here a SAD, a standard American diet. Basically, it's a diet with no nutritional value at all. It's just a bunch of junk and processed food. And that's really what I was eating
I like
before.
that the acronym is actually the effect of a poor diet.
Exactly.
At the end, you said you don't feel good about yourself. You attracting all of these diseases and sickness, and yeah, it's sad.
Yes. Yes,
Literally.
all of that is very sad.
And there's actually scientific-based studies that recognize that predominantly plant-based nutrition greatly participates in living with an optimal and long-lasting health, and you a good representation of that. You even called your business Eat Plants Prosper. So my question is, even though I know the answer, but I have to ask, is eating plant-based the only form of a healthy diet?
I think so. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to
Okay.
say yes. I'm going to say eating as many plants as possible. So when I say plant-based, I am not necessarily referring to, some people say plant-based is absolutely no processed food ever, right? And no animal products, no dairy products. For me, plant-based means eating as many plants as you can, right? Eating as many plants and minimizing, right? Because I do feel like everybody is different, right? Everybody is different. And so to me, going to that extent, and yes, eating minimal processed food, eliminating animal products from your diet, to me, that is the healthiest form. But how can anyone else, right? Anyone else that's outside of me that wants to make that choice be as healthy as possible? And it's to eat as many plants as you can. So even if you want to stay pescatarian, right? And you still eating as many plants as possible is going to give you the longevity that you need, even if you're eating pescatarian, right? Even if you're omnivore, right? You're eating everything. And if you stick to the formula of eating as many plants as possible, that's still going to be the healthiest that you can do personally, right? So to me, yes, being plant-based is focusing on the plants being the star of your diet. And then whatever else that you choose to eat, hopefully it's healthy, but if it's not, you're just trying to minimize as much, crowding your plate. I said crowding things out, right? You're crowding out the high fatty stuff. You're crowding out a lot of things with the vegetables on your plate. And the reason that I kind of made the switch, first of all, is because I do think that being vegan, we could be so hard on ourselves and so hard on people. Everybody is not wanting to go to that extent and live that lifestyle. How can I help as many people as possible get healthy within what they feel like is comfortable for them and what they are capable of continuing on to help them go into a healthy lifestyle for the long haul? There's this book called Blue Zones by Dan Buettner. You might be familiar with it. If you're not, it's a great read for you in the audience. Basically, the Blue Zones are areas in the world that have been identified where people live to be into their 100s, centenarians, and still be healthy, right? Because there's a difference here. America wants to tout, we got a long lifespan here in America. Yeah, but the actual health in those years, there's about a 7 to 10 year gap of where you are not healthy for those like 10 years. Who wants to be sick for 10 years?
Yeah,
For
and who
7
wants to
years?
live that long sick? Like
Sick,
doesn't make
exactly.
sense. Yeah.
Exactly. It's not like that's not a flex, right? Like at all, right? It's
Absolutely
not a
not.
flex. Right? What is a flex is Japan, right? People in Japan, Okinawa, people living into their hundreds, healthy, thriving, functioning in their right mind. They still consume meat. They still consume fish. The difference is the portion of meat that they consume out of meat. It's like a condiment. It's like a blob of ketchup that you would use, right? For your French fries. It's that small. and the rest of the meal is vegetables. And so I do think there's a way to incorporate things into your diet that some would consider, outside of what is being plant-based, that you can still make healthy for you as long as you are eating as many plants as you can. And so I think that that should be the focus for everyone. Now, for me, yes, eating plants is the way to prosper.
I love that. And that's so funny because when you answered, I was about to say, but Whitney, are you sure? Because to me, as you said, we're so different. We have different cravings. We were brought up different ways. We have different cultures, so on and so forth. And also our taste buds are very different from one another.
Yes.
So, but then you explain your own definition of plant-based because I was more into the vegan definition.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I completely agree with your answer. And to me, that's very funny because it's the same. I'm really not a fan of labels, but I understand the importance of them in
Yes.
showing the example and also having this sense of community and support. So if I have to use labels, I would say that my diet is a hybrid between vegetarianism and veganism. So it's mainly vegetarian, but I don't really drink cow milk or anything related to that. Oh, I also eat ice cream and cheese, of course. So I try to limit as much as possible animal products. So I will eat eggs and I will eat honey, but that's pretty much it. And that really helps me because I don't want to restrict myself to a place where I'm unhappy with the way I eat and I feel like it's a punishment. So I was thinking about giving myself a little bit more room to be able to find my balance and happiness and pleasure in the way that I eat by combining these two and taking what I can in the veganism, but also sticking to the vegetarianism, which I feel personally that is more flexible than exclusively plant-based and no processed food and no cheese and ice cream. So yeah.
I'm so happy you shared that because to me, I think that that's what people should be doing. Like what feels good to me, right?
Absolutely,
What feels
yeah.
good to me, and that may change as time goes on, right? So for me, when I first got started in this lifestyle, I was like, I don't like tofu and I just don't like it. I don't like it. Am I eating it? I'm not going to cook it. And then over time, my taste buds started to change, right? And so that's something that now I cook all the time. I incorporate into my diet all the time. And so I think we should allow ourselves that leeway to be flexible. I have a friend that goes to the gym with me, and she's like, I was vegetarian last month. I think I'm going to be pescatarian this month. I'm like, I love that. I love that. You're just trying different things to see what resonates with you. You're trying different things to see, what works. And I think that as long as you focus on getting as many fresh fruits and vegetables into your body and eliminating those things that you don't make you feel good, right? So the measure is, do you feel good after you eat it? And if the answer is no, then we have to consider minimizing how much we eat it or eliminating it altogether. And so I think to me, this is a much more inclusive message, right? That where everyone can kind of get involved in, what, I'm going to eat vegetarian during the week. And on the Sundays, I'm going to allow myself to have some fish, right? Like that might be what works for someone else, but that's a much healthier lifestyle than you only have to eat vegan or nothing at all. Like, right? You only have to be
so
plant-based.
restrictive. And that's how we give up also, because when we feel so within rules and it just feels like punishment, to be honest. So I realized that in order to have my diet as part of my lifestyle, it really shifted something into me. I felt like, I'm not eating that way or that type of way just for that moment, but because I feel that I want to eat like that for the long run, for the rest of my life. But I'm still not, it's going to sound weird, but I'm still not calling myself a vegetarian because I want to give myself that freedom and leeway to change in the future. If I want to be pescatarian in the future, I don't want to already label myself as something that I won't be in the future. You know what I mean?
Yes, I definitely love that concept. You do not have to put labels on it. Just because I don't say that I'm vegan doesn't mean that I'm not. Like, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like, so, but then when you do start to put those labels on, then someone sees you, eating your favorite ice cream and they're like, oh, I thought you,
is it a vegan ice cream?
They do have vegan ice cream and it's very good, but also junk food, which I have to explain to people a lot. It's like just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's healthy, guys. So that's why the emphasis is on the plants. It's on plants. But Melissa, I love that. Stop labeling.
Yeah.
Stop labeling. Just eat more plants. Eat healthy as possible. I do think eating predominantly plants is the best diet for you, the healthiest diet for you. But I need people to know that there are levels to this thing, right? You could be raw vegan. You can go to that extent and not eat any cooked food at all. Or you end of the stick is being an omnivore. You eat everything. Get as close as possible to eating as many plants as possible. That's all. That's the goal,
That's the
and some
motto.
people, that's the goal.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
love
goal.
that.
Where you land on that scale, is if it's the best that you can do, then do that. Don't not do it because you feel like you need to be striving for raw vegan. Like,
And I love that you actually call it plant-based and eating as many plants as possible, because when we stick to vegan, we have so many processed food that are labeled as vegan. And even though they're vegan, they're not healthy because it's still processed food. And what I understood now is when I buy sometimes processed food, because I do have my 20% of leeway
I
and freedom in my diet, I make sure that I understand at least 90% of the ingredient on the package. If I don't understand it, if it feels too like I'm in a lab, I choose something else. So, how do you feel about processed food that is labeled as vegan?
so glad you brought this up. I'm glad you brought the labels. You just make this is just great. I'm like getting so excited about the conversation
I love that.
because yes, this is a topic now that I have had to continually address with my nutrition clients. Just because it's labeled vegan, it does not mean that it's healthy. Veganism is different than it was back in the 70s, right? Back in the 70s, they were really thugging it out, Melissa. Okay. Like you were eating literally plants. You're not eating anything else because there were no processed foods. There were no processed vegan foods back in the day. So
Even
you were
10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was not as much vegan processed food as is now. Like I started that diet around 5 years ago, and it's crazy how drastically different it is in supermarkets now when it comes to vegan options.
And I love it because you can now, there's actually vegan cheese that tastes good, right? So I love that there are these options, but
I mean, I
that
don't
stuff,
agree, but yes.
I know, right?
Cheese doesn't
Listen,
taste good still.
listen, I tell you, I heard someone say, stop expecting vegan cheese. It tastes like real cheese. And that was when it clicked in my mind.
100%. 100%.
So I'm with you, but there are so much vegan junk food in the supermarkets now. So Beyond Burgers, Impossible Burgers, are they better choices than meat? In my mind, yes, they are. Are they still a vegan hamburger, vegan cheeseburger is just as much junk food as a regular cheeseburger. Just because it's vegan, take the junk food out of it, right? Vegan ice cream is still junk food, just like regular ice cream is, right? And so the measure is try to keep it 5 ingredients or less. That's how you know that you're not going to be eating a bunch of mess if you do that. But also to your point, Melissa, if you can't pronounce a lot of the ingredients on the back of a package, if your grandmother wouldn't recognize that as food, junk food, but if your grandmother wouldn't recognize it as food, you probably should not be consuming that. So ingredient lists, minimize how many ingredients there are in the package in the processed food. Look at the ingredients. For instance, I love Triscuits. They're like little crackers. There are 3 ingredients in them. It's wheat, olive oil, and salt. It's a processed
and you
food,
recognize
right?
these ingredients. You know what are these ingredients.
That's it. It's a processed food. It's because it's in a package, right? It's packaged, but it's of a processed food. It's minimally processed, right? Like it's got 3 ingredients that you recognize. That type of stuff we're good with. Go ahead and dip those in some hummus and enjoy, right? Something 75 ingredients. I know hummus, right? Something that has 75 ingredients, your body is like, what? What is this?
On?
Yeah, like, what is this? So don't do that to your body. If you're going to eat processed food, try to keep it 5 ingredients or less.
Great advice. I love that you mentioned grandmother, because when I think about eating things from the earth, eating plants, eating fruits, eating herbs from the earth to be able to heal ourselves, it makes me think about what were our ancestors doing, how they were eating before, and how come we strived away so far from what they were eating and the kind of diet they were having, which were making them healthy back in the day. So I don't know if you ever thought about that. I was thinking about that when you mentioned grandmother, and that's the kind of recurring thought that I've had since I've been eating more plants.
Yes, no, I'm so glad you mentioned that because my grandmother knew where her meat was coming from. She knew there was a farmer down the street. Yeah, right. And you knew that meat was responsibly raised. You knew the person that was raising it. You were going into the butcher shop to get whatever you needed, and not saying that was, an ideal diet even for them back then, but the knowledge of the local nature of food being available to us these days, factory farming is a global crisis.
Yeah.
global, destroying the earth. So that's a conversation for a whole nother day.
Yeah.
But
And you put
also,
it very nicely too, talking about just the crisis.
a whole nother conversation. Also, if those slaughterhouses had windows or if people saw how what was going on in there, people would never eat meat again. Okay. And so the idea and concept that these animals are living in such inhumane and unsanitary conditions, they're shooting them up with, antibiotics to keep them from getting sick, right? Where do you think those antibiotics are going? They're going right into your body. They're inside the flesh of the meat. So those antibiotics are going into your body, as well as the steroids, the growth hormones that they're using, right? Because the chicken breast, your grandmother's chicken breast that she was eating was a normal size, right? It was a normal size, probably maybe the size of the palm of my hand at the biggest. Now chicken breast is the size of your head. One chicken breast could feed literally like almost 4 people. They're shooting these chickens up with hormones to encourage that. And so again, those hormones are going right into your body, right into your system.
Yeah.
And so just very unhealthy for you in general, the way that they're treating the animals. You don't know where your meat is coming from. You don't know how it's getting to you. There are things that have to be done to get meat from Washington State all the way over to Atlanta, Georgia, where I am, right? To keep it preserved and all of that. And so
not even talking about how they feed these animals with tons of GMOs and crazy chemicals too.
Right. That's another thing. They're ingesting a bunch of, like you said, I think a bunch of GMO corn. They're eating meat scraps, things that they wouldn't be eating in nature. And so you're ingesting all of that into your system. And then the inhumane conditions come in, because if you believe in energy, those animals are being treated extremely inhumane. They are scared. They are in fear. They have, as humans, if we're stressed out, cortisol is flowing through your system like crazy. If you're under duress and stress, animals, same way. They're living under stressful conditions. They're scared out of their minds. And so that you're ingesting all of that into your system. And so our ancestors, the fruits and vegetables, right? That they were eating, and they ate a lot of that because again, they weren't affording a lot of meat.
Plus, I don't think they had that many options as we have now with the processed food, with the factory slaughterhouses. So it was very limited to them. And usually they ate meat during holidays when we had, for example, Christmas or celebrations and other things. That's why most of the time the central piece of the meal is meat, because it was so rare back in the day. It was not 3 times a day. It wasn't even several times a week. Sometimes it was just once a month. So that's interesting how so many people are now saying, yeah, but back in the day they were eating meat and there was no problem with that. But they weren't eating meat the same way that we are eating meat today.
That's right. I love that you said that. Yes, exactly.
Talking about the spiritual aspect of it, because I actually think like you, what the animals are going through, the stress, the fear, the violence, everything gets stored in their own body. But we do ingest that as well. So do you think that is also one of the reasons of, especially in the Western world, the high stressed society we live in, anxiety shooting through the roof, so much violence around us? Do you feel that is somewhat related?
Absolutely do. So
me too.
This cannot be, it can't be argued that energy doesn't die. Like that's a physics, right? So energy transfer is a real thing. Energy does not die. So just because that animal has lost its life and is no longer living, that energy that is within that animal, as soon as you're ingesting that, you're ingesting yes, I absolutely do believe that our diet, there is a huge nerve in our body called the vagus nerve, and it connects your brain and your gut. So 90% of the serotonin, which is the happy hormone, that is produced in your gut. It's produced in your gut. So if you're fueling your gut with low vibrational food, which is foods that someone's in a lab creating to make you get addicted to it, or animals that have been viciously slaughtered and kept in inhumane conditions, I encourage anyone. I watched a movie called Earthlings. It's available on YouTube. That was the video that helped me be like, you know what? I cannot. Like that's the video where I was like, I gotta minimize the animal products, because people need to see what's going on in these slaughterhouses. Like you need to understand how these animals are being treated and how they're being killed. And it's very violent. It's very violent.
Very violent. Absolutely. I actually visited a slaughterhouse.
Did you?
Yes, because I'm crazy like that.
Listen, I wish I would have went with you. I need somebody to go with me. I can't go by myself.
But the thing is, I was with someone, but the thing is, they had like one side of the place was just indoor, it was sheeps, not cows or anything, but just sheeps. So they were in this little indoor farm, but then the people had to choose them to say like, okay, I want that sheep, so cut it for me. And the moment that the butcher was entering the pen and opening the little barrier, all of the sheep were literally running away. So it's like they knew what was happening. Okay, I know you will bring me to another place where I'm not coming back. And that was so crazy to see because you feel like, okay, animals don't know what's going on. And as I was saying, like the two places were very separated. It was like, well, the one side was the little farm and the other side was the slaughterhouse. So even in that little farm, the animals knew that when that person or the butcher enters the pen, it means that
They're not coming back.
something not that cool is gonna happen. So you could
Right.
feel the fear, like they were scared. And when he was grabbing one and like putting them on the, like the little slide for them to get into that other side, the sheep was literally shaking. And I remember seeing that and I was like, oh my God, I was petting it and I was like, I can feel the fear of the animal. So that made me think about, okay, if that little animal is feeling like that, when he dies, what happens? Like, do we also carry that within us? Like, if the violence, the way that he's going to be cut off, and all of the fear that was inside of it, what's going to happen of it?
Right.
Is it transferred to us? I remember having like this crazy thinking little session with myself afterwards because it was very real suddenly. You see the
Yeah.
animal is actually thinking. When the guy
Yes.
entered, they literally ran away. So, and the guy
Yeah.
didn't do anything. So it was kind of
Right.
they made the correlation.
Yes. I honestly, I believe, again, this is scientific. So this isn't just us like, speculating, like making things up, but literally certain hormones run through your body and run through your system when you are in fight or flight mode. That animal was in fight or flight. He was really like in total fear. And so the amount of adrenaline that was being released, right? The amount of cortisol and those things that's in the muscles, it's in the tissue, it's in the system, right? It's in the blood. So you're ingesting that meat because the animal was in that state. He was not in a peaceful state, right? When he went on to heaven, like, or wherever the afterlife, whatever you believe in, he
Animal
was
heaven.
in fear.
Yeah.
He's in total fear. So yes, that is still in his body. It's still in his system, right? That doesn't change right now after his life was ended. That doesn't change. That's still in his system. So we are absolutely ingesting meat from terrified beings, from
Animals.
stressed out beings. And it's not just right then and there when he was getting slaughtered, but how was he being treated before then, right? So that could have been months of him being raised, once since he's been born, being raised until, he's ready to be slaughtered, that of inhumane treatment of the whole entire time. So even not outside of just that moment of fear where he was getting ready to be killed, it could have been inhumane before that. And so,
100%.
The way that animal's mind is working, as it's underneath the stress of being in a space and not being open and out roaming and freedom, eating grass and being free to be a
They were
sheep.
indoors. So it was literally indoor farm. So it means that
Tiny,
they were
right?
not running around. They were not
Yes.
having fresh air. And so, so on and so forth.
Yeah, then you're ingesting that. So yeah, it's absolutely going into your system. There's no question about it. No question.
Yeah, thank you for confirming that. How can we then support our healthy diet with mindfulness practices to boost the healing of our anxiety, stress, depression, gut issues, etc. naturally? In other words, what are the best ways to eat and to move?
There are 3 pillars to eat, plants, and prosper that I try to tell anyone that will listen, everyone. It's mindful eating, movement, and meditation. To me,
I love that. Yeah.
thank you. To me, those 3 things are going to bring about your fullest self, your happiest self, right? And so finding the time to move your body is so important and so crucial and pivotal. Again, we're talking about releasing hormones and all of this, right? When you're working out, those endorphins flooding your system are so good for you, right? It's so good for so many different reasons. Not only that, but you're also, maintaining the function of your body. You're keeping your body in good movement, good functioning shape, and that absolutely impacts your mental health. So finding and creating the space to find the movement that works best for you. For me, I love yoga. I'm a huge advocate of yoga. That has helped me so much with the mental health and the
Me too.
anxiety. So I got into yoga because I do love to work out too. So I love to lift weights. I enjoy some cardio. Cardio is not my favorite thing, but I do enjoy getting it in, lifting weights. I started yoga as a way to stretch and increase flexibility. It had nothing to do with what yoga was actually about. Yoga is actually about going inward and learning more about yourself. It's the journey through the self to the self. Like that is what it is all about. And incorporating that level of mindfulness, I found so much peace every time I got on the yoga mat. So much peace there. I meet God on that mat every time I step on it.
Yes,
Every
100%.
time. It's that breathing, the slowing down. It is that dedication of time for you, for yourself, right? Taking this time for me to set my mind up and my day up as best as possible. And so for me, that breathing, that element of breathing, that element of really challenging myself on the mat brought a level of peace and relief from anxiety that I didn't even know was possible. And then that's when the meditation came in, because yoga and meditation, obviously they're linked very closely. Yoga is more than just moving your body, right? So yoga is a lifestyle, is a way of life. Yoga means union, means being one with God, yourself, and everything else around you, right? And so it's more than just the asanas or the physical poses that people are used to. Asana is just one of the 8 limbs of yoga. Meditation is another. And so those two things, being introduced to meditation through yoga, that just brought me so much peace. I just felt like I need to share it with as many people. I actually ended up getting certified to teach yoga because I didn't see a lot of brown faces.
Congratulations. That's
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. I got certified actually during quarantine, during the pandemic 2020. It was one of the best things I had done because it had helped me so much, Melissa. It helped me so much to really learn to breathe deeply, and the power of breath, power of movement.
Reconnecting to life force. 100%.
Right. Exactly. So yes, huge advocate of yoga or anything, any type of movement that feels good to your body to help you release stress and to increase peace, or to bring in the peace in your life.
Yeah. For people who are not up for yoga or Pilates or other type of movements, I think we don't emphasize enough on the power of walking. Walking 30 minutes a day without your headphones, without your phone even, or at least putting on silent and in your pocket, and walking in nature and just focusing on moving your body and trying to reconnect with what's around you and reconnecting with yourself through walking is also very powerful.
Yes, I agree with that. It doesn't have to be yoga. You don't have to get on a treadmill and run. Getting out in nature and the power, like you said, just a walk, just a walk. And letting the sunlight hit your face, right? We spend so much time indoors, super impactful for your mental health, your physical health and your mental health as well. Yes. I love that you mentioned that. You don't have to do a marathon, right? To experience just a simple walk in nature. Yes.
Consistent walk. Yeah.
Yes.
And let's be honest, cooking takes time and sometimes a lot of time depending on what we're cooking. And as a vegan chef and meal prep queen that you are, could you share some tips to still commit to our health by cooking nourishing, healthy homemade meals from scratch in a way that could still fit our modern lifestyle?
Yes. Oh, great question, Melissa. One of my biggest tips is to set yourself up for greatness by prepping for the week. So I'm a big batch cook advocate because, even I don't want to be in the kitchen every single day, right? Every day of the week. So I'm a big fan of maybe on Sunday cooking 2 or 3 meals that I can eat off of during the week. Something like a chili or spaghetti, it tastes better, right? The more that it sits and over time. So those type of things and preparing those things to where, I'm not going to stop and get takeaway because I have food already prepared at home. I don't even have to cook anything, on a Tuesday night, right? It's super helpful. It's super helpful. The other thing is keep it simple, Melissa. That is the biggest, honestly, I just put that out there all the time. Yes, it's great to have these beautifully crafted, structured meals that you see on Instagram where you're like, wow, that looks so gorgeous. That's great. I love those. But also you can just keep it simple. A sweet potato, black beans, and sauteed spinach. Yeah. That's it. You're good. I mean, you don't need to go, every meal doesn't have to be something that takes you 3.5, 4 hours to cook. Just keep it simple and basic.
Honestly, when it's over an hour, I'm done. I'm not even trying to do more than an hour. Yeah. And I'm trying to now put maximum 5 ingredients, not counting onions, garlic, and herbs and stuff like that, but maximum 5 ingredients.
I love that.
And if it takes me more than an hour, I switch or improvise the recipe.
Right. I'm totally with you on that. Like, try to keep the recipes as minimum as possible in terms of number of ingredients. Another thing, like I said, when I was talking about prepping, if you know what you're going to cook through the week, a big tip could be that maybe on Sunday you chop the vegetables. You chop everything that you need to on a Sunday. And so that's like half the time in the kitchen. I don't think people
That is
realize that
true.
you're
Yeah.
chopping stuff. And so on Sunday, if you know you're going to make these four things, okay, prep everything, get it bagged up. And so all you're doing now when you get home is you're taking out, the onions, the bell pepper, the celery, it's already cut up. You just put it in the pan, and then that makes the cooking go by so much faster. You can get a meal on the table in 30 minutes as opposed to an hour. It makes a big difference. So
Yeah, huge difference.
those are some tips. And like I said, just keep it simple, keep it basic. As long as you have some type of vegetable, some type of healthy starch or whole grain, and some type of healthy protein, that formula could be played with and keep it very simple because, they have now the quinoa, the pouches that you could put in the microwave. It's just like quinoa and salts, right? Or whatever. And then you could put that in the microwave, keeping it very simple, but it can be very delicious as well and easy.
I love that you mentioned microwave because there's like this debate between microwave
I
and
know.
healthy eating. I mean, I'm not perfect, so microwave is often my go-to. I have to say, once I freeze all of my meal prep for the week, usually during the week, I just take my thing from the freezer and put it in the microwave and have it ready in less than 5 minutes.
Yes.
But I think that's a debate to have in another conversation. Should we use microwave or not when we're trying to eat healthy?
Listen, no is the answer. I have not reached that, right? So
That level. Yeah.
just as like raw, I haven't reached raw veganism. Like, yeah, right. I do incorporate raw days into or do raw detoxes and all that, but I'm not a raw vegan. I haven't reached that level yet. I
Mm,
haven't reached the level yet where there's absolutely no microwave in my life, but I
yeah.
do try to decrease the amount that I'm using it. And it is
Yeah,
to
me
me
too.
that thing is like, would you rather have a person eat healthy food but be microwave or not? You know what I'm saying? And so for
Yeah.
me, I'm going to always have you choose the healthy food and then go ahead and use the microwave, and then we'll work our way out of not using the microwave as much.
Mm.
So that's how I try to think about it in my mind, but I know people that are like, absolutely not, will not use a microwave. But you're talking on the cell phone though. So those are the things that I'm like, if you guys,
I love that.
we
Yeah.
got
It's
it on
all
the cell
about
phone.
balance. Yeah.
Yes, right,
Mm.
right.
And for people who want to give it a try or who are already trying but feel kind of lost about what kind of, you talked about protein, starch, and how much they should put in, so on and so forth. You have a program called Plant-Based One-on-One. Could you talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, so my whole goal with that is to help demystify and simplify, right, plant-based life. Because like we talked about at the start of the pod, it just can be so confusing, right, when you're getting into it. And I really want to simplify it as much as possible for people in terms of how they can start to eat more plant-based. What meals or types of food can they start to incorporate into their diet? Foods can they start to release or whittle down, wean off of? Things like grocery lists, like what should I be looking for when I'm shopping? Also, some substitutes, right? Because a big problem I think a lot of people have is like, okay, what am I going to substitute? And I think you can
Yeah.
maybe identify with this a little bit, like when you started going into vegetarianism or eating a little bit more in this lifestyle. Sometimes people gain weight because all you can think about eating is stuff that has carbs in it, very carb heavy.
100%. I gained so much weight. I was not understanding what was going on. I was like, I'm not eating meat anymore. I'm eating much less processed food, but I'm gaining so much weight. What?
Right.
And I was not even like feeling energized anymore. Not. I just felt like heavy and stuff. So I love that
Yes.
you specify that. Mm.
Yes, I think, having those swaps, like, okay, here are some options that you can have, right? Here are some meals outside of pasta and potatoes, right? The
Yeah.
things that you're like, okay,
And
you
beans.
know, and beans, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Here are some things that you can eat. And so I'm really just trying to give everyone kind of like a baseline of like, okay, these are some meals that I can put together, and here's how I can put those things together. Here are some grocery items that I should be looking for. Here are some options, some swaps for vegetarian, vegan items, as opposed to, instead of eating meat, instead of eating chicken, try some tofu. Instead of eating this, try that. And so that's what I really am trying to do with the plant-based 101, is just to help people get acclimated to the lifestyle, give them a quick jump start into the lifestyle,
Mm.
without all the noise and chaos that you read on you're reading on the internet. So that's the whole point of plant-based 101, to simplify the lifestyle for folks.
I love that. And quick question that I asked you every single guest. Do you have simple daily habits you do to be and act more consciously in life? Other
Definitely.
than eating, of course.
Other than eating, right? Other than what you're eating,
Yeah.
yes. And I love that you said that, because eating is definitely a form of being conscious. And we remove that, I think, from our mind, because we want to eat what we want to eat. But being conscious also is about like what you're consuming, and not just what you're eating, but also what you're reading, what you're watching as well. And so I do make sure that I'm reading things that are fulfilling my mind. I have scrubbed my Instagram timeline, my social media timeline, and I try to spend as little time as possible on social media, because it is not, it's while it could be and can be, and some people are using it very consciously, for the most part, it is not being used that way. But starting my day for sure with meditation. So the first thing I do is quiet my mind to get my day started. Okay. I am in a position of making sure that I'm connecting with source energy every morning. And I think a lot of people are used to praying where, you know, we're talking to God, and meditation for me is where we're listening. God,
Yeah.
God, what do you want me to hear? What do I need to know about this day? You know, show me what I need to know. So getting and posturing yourself in that position, and sometimes it's just communing with the universe in that space. So just complete quiet, right? Quiet space. We have a lot of monkey minds these days. Basically, the way I like to describe it is, you know, when you have your computer screen open, it's like 16 tabs open at the same time.
Guilty of it.
I have right now, right behind this Zoom. It's like, you know, right, the same thing. But that's how our minds are. We can't operate at our best when we're in that state. And so being able to quiet your mind, connect yourself with source energy, charge yourself up is the best way to start your day. And so from there, I try to get into some type of movement, whether that be a full workout or stepping on my yoga mat, and making sure that I'm incorporating some movement into my body. And also just being in a place of gratitude and trying to remain there throughout the day, saying thank you for the things that you're seeing that you are happy about. It could be, I'm just looking at my plants. I'm grateful for them. They're beautiful. I'm grateful for that. And those little things make a big difference in your life. Like those simple things you will find, I think, really can shift your perspective, even when something quote unquote bad happens, right? What lesson did you learn from that? Right? You give thanks for that lesson, and operating out of a place of gratitude. Those three things for me, the meditation, moving your body, and then just being grateful, remaining grateful, really are a huge perspective shift that help me live more consciously.
I absolutely love that, because it really looks like my morning routine. And I love that you made the correlation between praying and meditation, one being as asking and talking to God, and the other one as listening to the answers within ourselves, the answers that we receive from source, and like being more in tune. So we have also the answers from our environment when we get into the world, into like being active afterwards. So I usually do the prayer first, and then the meditation, and then the gratitude. So I love that you mentioned all of them.
That's awesome. I love that there's such that connection, right? So it's not just you saying it to your audience. Now it's like I'm also saying like this is something that is effective and impactful. Through listening to the pod, you know, and this interaction that we're having, you can see the effects of that in your life.
Yeah.
I can see it. Your energy is good. I'm listening to the
Thank
pods.
you.
It is. It is. So
Right
what you're
back
doing,
at you.
you know, it's evidence of what you're doing daily. It shows up.
That's true. That's true, because most of the time we do things, but we don't realize the effect that we have on others. We know how we show up, but we don't know how we are perceived by others. So that's interesting to see that is the daily habits, even the tiniest ones, that are reflecting that to the world.
That's right. Yeah.
So let us know about your services, the services you offer, and where can we find you online?
So I am a plant-based chef, do offer meal prep services for any of those listeners. I also am a certified yoga instructor and a holistic nutritionist as well. So I do offer health coaching services, nutrition services, workshops, education to my clients as well. Love speaking engagements. So if anyone is interested in those type of things about, you know, anything, like I said, from yoga, all the conscious living, meditation, all the way to eating healthy as well. So those are some of the services that I provide. I can be found on my website, which is eatplantsandprosper.com, and on Instagram at eatplantsprosper, no and, just Eat Plants Prosper on Instagram. So I can be found there. I would love to connect with your listeners. I absolutely adore what you're doing, and your podcast is so amazing. It
Thank
is. And
you. Thank you
I'm
so
honored to
much.
be a guest on the show, but This was just great, Melissa. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much, Whitney. It was such a pleasure. And I feel honored to have guests just like you who are making a difference, a positive difference. We're trying to also radiate their own light into the world. So I love that. And as you mentioned, all of your services, we can say that you are doing it all. And we're so grateful for you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate being on the show. It really was an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you to have taken the time to listen to me talking about conscious living. Conscious Matters is a self-produced podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, leave a review, and/or donate. Your support will help to keep on raising the collective consciousness together. Take care and talk to you soon.